find if I'm putting a look together or if I'm putting a look together for clients, if a look isn't really feeling right or if an outfit is feeling a little bit off, it usually comes down to these three things. So in today's video, I'm going to focus on each of these little sort of problems or question marks that we can adjust to bring our look to a place that makes us feel good and like it's truly expressing our point of view. I want to underscore that these aren't necessarily rules, and it might not be a situation where each one of these things is missing or needs correcting in your look, but it could just be one or a few. Take these ideas as you need. They're certainly not hard and fast rules like anything in fashion, but hopefully they give you a little bit of a mental checklist that you can do if your look is feeling off. The first issue could be around your ratio and style mix of your style descriptors. If you're not familiar with figuring out your style through 3 keywords or 3 style descriptors, I have a video about it up here that I will link for you. Alyson Bornstein and Amy SMILOVIC have done some really cool work around using 3 words or using adjectives to describe your style and use these as a guidepost for your style. And I think that a really easy way to kind of fix or adjust a look that's off is to double check that the ratio of these style descriptors is actually matching the mood or the point of view that you want to express that day, that feeling that you want to express. For example, my 3 words are typically minimal, classic, and undone. And I usually add a 4th kind of modifier or like a little extra spice with the word bombshell, which I love to keep in mind. Let's take this look as an example. This is a great look, and I have to say, like, there's nothing wrong with this look. It's just that if we're looking at it from my perspective of my 3 words, it does feel a little bit too classic, a little bit too polished. Even the way the cuffs are rolled, it's a J. Crew cuff. It's very preppy, it's very clean. The way the pant is falling, it's nice and clean and sleek. The buttons are done up, and even my hair is slicked back. So easy ways to kind of add a little bit of that undone, a little bit more of that bombshell is by simply changing up the styling of this look. Unbuttoning another button, maybe I see a little peek of my bralette. Changing the way the sleeves are cuffed can be such a huge but minimal effort thing. What I'm gonna do is undo the J. Crew cuff and just give them like a very casual roll. I also think that because the pants are falling in a one clean classic line, perhaps making them feel a little bit more like a jogging pant or giving them a little bit more of like a voluminous feel, like changing up the structure, could do something interesting. So by tucking them into the boots, they almost take on this jogger feel. And of course, by giving it more of a half tuck, it feels a little bit more casual and laid back. So by readjusting the ratio of your style descriptors, you can perhaps fix or correct some of those issues that you can't quite pinpoint in your outfit. The next point on your checklist could be a matter of changing up the proportions. Swapping out a shoe, adjusting a hemline, or swapping out a hemline to work with a certain waistline. Those are 3 key ways that I can quickly adjust my proportions, and maybe I feel a little bit more me, or maybe they'll help inform a vibe that I'm looking to exude that day. One other piece that is big with proportions is if there is tension between things that are more voluminous in your look and more fitted. Depending on how dramatic or balanced you want your look to be, looking for the differences in volume and how close things are to the body can make a big difference too. And while we're on the topic of proportions, I quickly want to say I'm not always looking to make proportions flatter my body or make me look thinner or taller. It really depends on the vibe, again, and the point of view and the feeling that I want to express that day. So when I'm talking about changing up hemlines and waistlines and things like that, it's not necessarily to make me feel thinner or feel taller. It's more about where I want to draw the eye in my outfit so that it tells the story I want it to. Here's an example where changing the proportions can have a big impact on the overall look itself. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the way the sweater isn't tucked here. I actually love this look as much as when I change up the waistline. The only difference is here here, the vibe is so much more gamine, so much more chill. I have a very narrow hip line in relation to my shoulders. I don't really have a lot of distinguishing curves, and wearing the sweater at my hip level really accentuates that. And there's nothing wrong with that because the skirt is a midi length and it's of an equal fit as the sweater. So like it's not super tight, it's not super voluminous, but watch what happens when I tuck in the sweater at the front and I accentuate the waistline with a belt. So not only are we elongating the leg by bringing up the waistline and bringing attention to my waist, the overall vibe of this look changes too. It draws attention to my waist, which is a traditionally more sort of delicate and you could say feminine vibe. It also kind of creates the illusion, as much as possible with my body, of a wider hip line in comparison to my top half. I also thought this was a good example with proportions when we're looking at changing up the hemline. Now that the pant hem is shorter because it's tucked into the boot, my legs are being shortened. So that's why keeping the shirt tucked in here and keeping the waistline high for me is good, because my preference is to make my legs look long since they're actually the shorter part of my body and I have a long torso. So for me, when I'm shortening the hem of the pant, I like to keep the waist nice and high. And you can see the difference here when I leave the shirt untucked, especially because I've got high contrast in the shirt and in the boot. The pants look pretty short now. Again, not everything has to make my legs look long, but my personal preference is to give a bit of a longer line. Proportions also apply in terms of volume versus fit or definition. So if I were to add this cropped moto on top of this look, it looks really good, but it's a very harmonious, almost classic vibe because everything is a little bit fitted to the body. There's no contrasting volume versus fit. Look what happens when we untuck the sweater. The hemlines are different. The looseness of the sweater isn't really playing well with the fittedness of the jacket. So to get that more balanced look, it's really important that we tuck in the sweater just so that we get a little bit more of that definition and balance, if that's what you're looking for. Here's another interesting proportion play. When I'm adding the big voluminous jacket here, the proportions of this jacket are definitely bigger and more voluminous than the skirt and even the sweater. However, because the skirt and sweater aren't super fitted, when I don't have the sweater tucked in, you can see it feels perhaps a little bit off. There isn't really any story to tell with the eye. I'm not quite sure where to look. But as soon as I give that sweater a little tuck and I add a little bit of definition, now we're able to contrast the volume with something that feels a little bit more fitted underneath. Something else that is really helpful is showing a little bit of skin, especially because there isn't anything super fitted to contrast the volume of the jacket, so the bareness of my arms does that. It adds that little bit of contrast. It adds a little bit of tension between something that is big, bulky, with something that is delicate and dainty. So this is still balanced. However, it's balanced because of the contrast between something voluminous and having a little bit of definition versus something that is balanced because all of the silhouettes play nicely together, like in the first look. The final point that you might want to check if your outfit isn't quite there yet is if your look has been judged. This seems so simple, and these little styling tweaks like tucking a shirt, whether it's a half tuck or a full tuck, cuffing a pant, adding a layer or two of different jewelry, figuring out some interesting texture mixes in your look. All of these things can seem so small, but they make your look feel intentional, personal, and sometimes they make your outfit just feel a little bit more lived in. Even if you're just stepping out the door, and we all want to look effortless. However, things that look and feel effortless are usually the things that do take the most time and effort and intention. So that is what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, it is such a pleasure to have you here and watching. Don't forget, I have tickets to my live virtual Shop Your Closet event coming up at the beginning of February. It is a really fun and engaging 2 hours where we have 2 people whose closets we style live and in real time, and we shop their closets for 2 different looks, and everyone gets to participate and submit their interpretation of the look too. So there's a lot of inspiration, and we really focus on understanding elements of style, things like proportion, silhouette, texture, and how you can start seeing your closet as elements of style, which is an absolute game changer in terms of learning how to shop your closet and get creative with what you've already got. So I'll leave all of the information for tickets and details in the description box below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, if you learned something new. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be back with another slow fashion video. Thank you again for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day and week, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!